Cancel culture and censorship and wokeism are an epidemic, and our freedom of speech is under direct attack. So today on Renegade News, we're taking a deep dive into the worst things about censorship, cancel culture, and the declining of freedom of speech that we have in the West. Welcome back. It's Renegade News. Welcome back to Renegade News Live, where freedom lovers like you can learn how to create a cancel-proof business, get back your privacy and your data sovereignty, and create the kind of income and free time that's needed to pursue your life's mission. I'm your host, Glenn Kowalski, and if you can give me 5, that's right, just type 5 in the comments right now. I will send you our Renegade Business Cheat Sheets absolutely free, where you can discover the exact system that we use to make sure that your business is completely cancel-proof, even in a super cancel-charged environment. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are, Renegades. We are back on Renegade News Live after taking last week off for our Cancel Proof Summit. And it feels so good to be back and to get back into the flow. It's great to see our live viewers here. So if you're watching, just let us know. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'm going to try and keep an eye on those throughout the show and just call you out and just say hi. I'd like to say hi to everybody. And it's always a pleasure to talk to who's ever watching us. I love to talk to our live viewers. So as experts and influencers in the online business sector, we all know that when it comes to growing our business, the power that comes from social media, networking, content creation is so powerful in growing our business. But what happens when that censorship and that cancel culture start to invade and become more and more prominent? Is there a danger of it turning into a 1984 dystopian nightmare? In recent years, we've seen this increase in censorship, particularly if we're in fields that are considered kind of more controversial. Maybe some places like religion, politics for sure, gender identity, moral issues, freedom and liberty, some financial topics as well, medical definitely. In all of these areas, we're starting to see more and more censorship. And we've also seen this ever-growing number of people who are being canceled or shut down or banned or shadow banned because of mass criticism or just criticism from the right people for expressing ideas or opinions that are either unpopular or maybe considered offensive. And that phenomenon, of course, we call that cancel culture. Or in often cases, we'll call it Wokism. But that type of censorship can have serious implications on a business, obviously, and especially if you're in the online space or use online marketing. And it can lead to all sorts of punitive things taken against you and taken against companies. Anybody who dares to speak up on certain topics at all, just talking about them can get you banned, shadow banned, and censored and canceled. But it's even more likely if those aren't popular topics or you have an opinion that doesn't agree with the public or with the government on those types of things. Now, according to many on the left, in the traditional left in the media, there really is no such thing as cancel culture. For example, there's the New York Times columnist Charles Blow. He tweeted recently that, one more time, there's no such thing as cancel culture. There is freedom of speech. You can say and do as you please, and others can choose to never deal with your company or your prospects ever again. And I've talked to a lot of people about cancel culture and wokeism, and that's what they think. That, oh, well, that just means that people don't want to deal with your business. And I'm a free market guy, so I'm all about that. If you don't like something that a business is doing or the way that they're carrying out their business or really for any other reason, don't go to that business. I have no problems with that at all. That's how the market should be run. But that isn't what's happening right now, not even close. There's this wokeness and woke culture that's invading the government and big tech monopolies. So the free market doesn't have anything to do with it and really has no say over all that. And all of that kind of means that what's happening is we're subject to this form of government control that most of the citizens can never see, hear, or say everything that they need to know to make decisions, because what they see, hear, and say is being controlled. And that starts to result in this echo chamber where only one side is ever represented. We're seeing this more and more, where if you have an opinion and it's contrary to, say, big tech, you can't see anybody else who has those types of opinions that you might have is silenced. And they do that on purpose to try and make you feel that you're alone, make you feel that you're isolated. even though your opinion may be one that is shared by many people, maybe in a lot of cases most people. But by censoring that other side, you never get the opportunity to know that there's others out there that feel in the same way that you do. And it also means that any word or thing that is deemed offensive or wrong can be immediately canceled or shut down. And there's no consideration of free speech rights anymore, or this principle of innocent until proven guilty. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on as well, where just using that trigger word can send this spiral of cancel culture. And just, I mean, a few tweets or even a sentence from an interview that's been taken out of context, all of those things can actually ruin your life and career forever. I've seen many careers ruined for just one word taken out of context or used in the wrong context, used as part of a script in some cases, or at least reported that way. So that's happened. But worst of all, censorship and cancel culture creates this climate of fear where people are afraid to express themselves because they're worried they're going to get attacked or shut down. And that ultimately leads to a stagnation of ideas and a lack of any creativity or progress, or making the progress that we need to actually make positive change. Because let's face it, not everybody who's in charge of the message has the right answers. Maybe that's intentional, maybe it's not. Maybe they don't have your best interests in heart when they say they do in many cases. But by shutting down that one side and only having one voice come through, we can never get the creativity and the energy and the progress we need to making some progress there. And I want to look at a couple of recent examples that have come up. You've likely seen or heard about these. And let's start by looking at what happened recently with Tucker Carlson, just this last week. And this show, Renegade News Live, we're not political. We're not a political show. And I don't like getting into politics. I don't even like really getting into social issues very much. That's not why we're here. We're about opening up freedom of speech. And so I don't care if you love Trump or you hate Trump or you fall somewhere in the middle. I don't care if you love the Republicans, the Democrats, none of them. It really is irrelevant to me. And I don't even care in the context of talking about this, whether you think that the January 6th incident was this violent insurrection or you think it was a mostly peaceful protest. And I've heard both sides of that argument as well. And you should have an opinion on that, and you should have an opinion on that. So I don't care about any of that right now. And I think you should be free to have your own opinion with this, about it and what happened. But the problem is, how are we supposed to have an opinion? How are we supposed to form that opinion or a position on it when we can't see any of the evidence or have a discussion about it? We can't have an opinion if you're not given all the data. So the other day on Tucker Carlson, they showed some clips of the so-called QAnon, however you pronounce it, shaman, walking around and being escorted by police officers. And they showed him walking from room to room. The police officers were even trying to open up doors with keys for them. At the end of the clip, they showed him praying for the officers and thanking them for letting them in. And this very peaceful situation. And I'm not going to bother showing you that clip. If you haven't seen it, it's out there all over the place. You probably have seen it by now. People on both sides are showing it all over the place because some people are against it, some people are for it. So I'm not going to show that. And like I said, the point of it doesn't even really matter what they were showing. What they were showing was what was shown on the Tucker Carlson. The point of what I'm saying is what they're showing was censored and it was hid from us. And it was censored and hid, in this case, to actually ruin a person's life, because not even the judge in the case had access to this information. Again, I'm not going to go down that road, but it was censored, and it was censored in a bad way. And that censorship is not a small thing, because like I said, I mean, it resulted in probably the judge, and we don't know all the details there, but it resulted probably in the judge not knowing exactly what happened. But it also resulted in the media pushing a narrative and the public believing a narrative, and I know many people who do believe this way, that this guy should have been murdered for what he did.
Watching the video, and on the Senate floor, there's a cop who's armed, and a guy bursts in, the QAnon shaman, dressed like a Viking, and he basically talks to him. I'm watching. Shoot him. Yeah. Shoot him. Like, if it...
So now, clearly anybody who actually saw the clip of the QAnon shaman, whether he should have been there or not, and I'm not saying he should have been there, obviously there was a lot of bad things that happened that day, but anybody who saw that clip of him being escorted knows that that action should not have resulted in him being murdered. But censorship made people believe that and made them think that he deserved to be killed. And the media certainly took that and ran with it, obviously because they have a narrative. But if people were able to see all sides and see all this video that has been held from the public and censored, they would be able to make their own decision as to whether they thought that that was an appropriate action or not. But what's happening is that's not happening. That information is not being released. People aren't seeing that. The only place that we've seen that is on the Tucker Carlson show, and now on shows that are talking about the Tucker Carlson show. That information wasn't given to us. And instead of saying, well, maybe we should have released that, or maybe opening up and being more transparent about the government who's supposed to work for us, not the other way around, they're all screaming that we should censor more. They're insisting that we need to censor this stuff more, and it's terrible that we didn't censor it. I mean, just listening to the government, and I'm talking about government members on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, screaming at Tucker and saying that he should be fired and that his show should be taken off the air. There's a couple of clips that I had that I couldn't come up with just before I got here, which are even worse than these ones. But listen to what these people are saying. These people in the government are saying about just you, the people who pay their salaries, seeing this information.
Romney, all weak men, and like all weak men, vicious men, were especially angry. Watch.
It was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict this in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement official here at the Capitol thinks.
I think it's bull. When you see police barricades breached, when you see police officers assaulted, all of that, or you had to be in close proximity to it. If you were just a tourist, you should have probably lined up at the visitor center and came in on an orderly basis. So I just don't think it's helpful.
It's really sad to see Tucker Carlson go off the rails that bad. The American people saw what happened on January 6th. They've seen the people that got injured. They saw the damage to the building. You can't hide the truth by selectively picking a few minutes out of tapes and saying this is what went on. It's so absurd.
So I love that. I love Romney. You can't selectively take a few minutes out of context. Okay, what did the January 6th committee do? What are you doing when you're hiding most of this information? I mean, in the case of the shaman guy, they didn't even just hide the video footage never even existed. Apparently, if they had, they should have showed it. I didn't see any actual footage of him being violent anywhere, but they sure talked about it. And like I said, that isn't the point whether he was or wasn't violent. Like I said, bad stuff happened. But the point is that without us being able to see that video because it was censored, there's no way for any of us to really know the truth or know what actually happened on that day. We just have to take the word, and taking the word of what we know are known liars, sorry, but it's the truth. We have to just trust them because they're censoring one side. And the point is that Tucker Carlson exposed this censored video that proves that they lied about what happened, at least in certain parts of it. But instead of addressing his points, they just called for him to be fired, taken off the air, and canceled because they could control the narrative. And the way that you control the narrative is by censoring. How do we hold a real debate when we can't see what goes on behind closed doors? I mean, the government is supposed to work for the people. It's not supposed to be the other way around. How can we possibly have a debate, make changes that we need to make when our messages and any contrary messages to what they want to get out are being censored? And it's just getting worse and all the time. Now, we also already know that cancel culture can ruin somebody's reputation or career with just a few tweets or posts. It doesn't take very long, and it doesn't take much for it to happen, and a career can be ruined. Look at what happened with Scott Adams. Scott Adams just recently had his career ruined for stating his opinion on his live stream. He's got a live stream that he does every day. I don't know if you know who Scott Adams is. He's the creator of the Dilbert comic strip, which has run for years and years. This comic strip has been running, which is a satire about corporate American, corporate life in sort of this corporate environment. And I can't tell you myself, I mean, how many mind-numbing days that I spent at Microsoft when I was back in that corporate world. Thank God I'm out of it now. But laughing in his strip because he so perfectly captures corporate America. He's a great satirist, he's a humorist, he's a comedian. And as a comedian, you're kind of expected to push limits a little bit in your art. And that's something that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to challenge social norms. And he did a great job of it with corporate America. Incidentally, what he said and what we're about to talk about had nothing to do with his comic strip. So now his comic strip is gone, so people are losing the enjoyment they got it from reading that comic strip. His career has obviously been damaged. He'll probably build it up in another way by learning, like guys from me, how you can become cancel proof. But the fact is, he said some things and had some opinions that didn't agree, so his business was ruined. So if you haven't heard, on this recent live stream that he runs every day, he was talking about a Rasmussen poll. And the poll asked the question to African Americans, is it okay to be white? So this is a poll. Rasmussen's obviously a very respected organization, polling organization. This isn't some small little backwoods thing or somebody trying to put out fake data or whatever on a topic to just, raise gander. They asked, this is a respected organization, they asked this question: is it okay to be white? Well, according to the survey, only 53% of the respondents admitted that it's okay to be white. Well, 47% said that no, it was not okay to be white, or that they didn't know. So basically, Scott Adams went on this rant saying that if 47% of people in a group don't think that it's okay to be white, that they are a hate group.
Now, because I like to be on the winning team, and I like to help. And I always thought, well, if you help the black community, that's sort of the biggest lever. You can find the biggest benefit. So I thought, well, that's the hardest thing and the biggest benefit. So I'd like to focus a lot of my life resources in helping black Americans. So much so that I started identifying as black to just be on the team I was helping. But it turns out that nearly half of that team doesn't think I'm okay to be white, which is, of course, why I identified as black, so I could be on the winning team for a while. But I have to say, this is the first political poll that ever changed my activities. I don't know that that's ever happened before. Normally you see a poll, you just look at it and you go, whatever. Oh, this is interesting what other people think. But as of today, I'm going to re-identify as white because I don't want to be a member of a hate group. I'd accidentally joined a hate group. So if nearly half of all blacks are not okay with white people, according to this poll, not according to me, according to this poll, that's a hate group. That's a hate group. And I don't want to have anything to do with them.
So I don't want to get into what he said. Again, we don't talk about social issues. That's not why we're here. And he definitely expressed some opinions that I don't agree with. And I think that's partially, he's an entertainer and he's a satirist. So I think he was probably trying to make a point. And so maybe he said things stronger, in more stronger terms than some of us would want to use. I don't know. I mean, I can't speak to what where his opinions come from. And like I said, I don't agree with all of his opinions. Certainly don't agree with, a lot of what he said in this case. But I'm not here to talk about politics or the social issues. And if you believe he's racist, he may be. I don't know. I honestly can't say. I don't know, and it's not my department to know. But how, and I'm not here to talk about, like I said, these social issues. I'm not a social issues expert. There's obviously a nuance in all of this. Obviously, racism is bad. It's terrible. It's an awful thing. It's disgusting. I can't stress enough how disgusting I think that is. But like I said, I don't want to go down that road. I'm not here to talk about that. But what I'm here for is to help make sure that these issues can actually be discussed openly and honestly. Because if we can't actually discuss them without fear of losing our businesses, losing our jobs, losing our careers, how do we solve social issues? I mean, clearly, if this poll is accurate, and like I said, there's no reason to believe that it's not, almost half of African American people who are polled don't agree that it's okay to be white. Clearly, that is a problem. I don't know where the problem stems from. Maybe it's not okay to be white. Like I said, it's not my place to say. But clearly, if almost half of them are saying that, or half of that group is saying that, then clearly we have a problem. And if we can't discuss that problem, how are we ever going to come together and make it better? How are we ever going to prove anything? And just to kind of add on, the worst part is, and the part that proves that, sort of to me, that wokeism isn't about trying to make society better or make equality better or improve really anything. It's really more about control, is that things in the cancel culture world aren't applied evenly. And what I mean by that is some people can say things that other people can't say. So one person can say it and they're cheered, another person can say it and they are booed down and canceled for it. And that leads to this huge cultural and this political divide between people, because if we can't come together and if we can't hear all sides and if only one side can speak, we become this echo chamber. And I say this, one of the reasons I say this for sure is because, like, looking at somebody who said many of the same things that Scott Adams went on to discuss. He discussed a few things about neighborhoods and stuff like that, which is also part of him getting canceled. But do you know who else discussed these same things but wasn't canceled for it? It's Don Lemon.
Respect where you live. Start small by not dropping trash, littering in your own communities. I've lived in several predominantly white neighborhoods in my life. I rarely, if ever, witness people littering. I live in Harlem now. It's an historically black neighborhood. Every single day I see adults and children dropping their trash on the ground when a garbage can is just...
And I don't want to keep on playing that. It doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is, my point there, and the reason I played both clips, is that here we have two people who were talking about the same thing. One was canceled, his career was ruined. Another one, it was okay to say those same things. And I don't think it should matter. I think we should all be able to talk freely, regardless of where we came from. We should be able to state our opinions. If our opinions are wrong or if our opinions are bad, then those opinions are going to get pushed down. They're going to get squashed. You know, clearly, like, I believe, and I know I've been told that I'm wrong, but I believe that the vast majority of the world is not racist. And I hate racists, I hate racism, I hate the whole thing. Well, clearly, if the majority of us feel that way, we're going to squash out those bad ideas, those racist ideas. We're going to push them out of society in an organic way. But if we can't discuss them, how do we fix those problems if we can't actually express them? Especially when there's one side that can express those ideas with, you know, and express really any opinion they want without fear of getting canceled. So the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about was that cancel culture and censorship also creates this environment where experts are scared to create, they're scared to innovate, and they're scared to speak their minds about really anything. Because it's not that just this big companies that this wokeism is happening to. You know, we've heard about, you know, Disney go woke, go broke. We've heard about what's going on there. We've heard about companies who have said something, or somebody in the company has said something and they get shut down for it. But it's not just big companies. It's happening to everybody. And it's not just white males. It's not just straight males. It's not just females. It's not just African Americans. It's not just anybody. And this is why I hate identity politics, because it's not about the group. It's just about these woke trigger things that have been decided to be offensive. And I'm going to talk about an example of Marlon Anderson. And he's an African-American father of four. He's from Wisconsin, had a good job as a guard at a school, and had a great relationship with everybody as far as we know. But one of the students, as students can be, you know, young people can be, some of us were dicks. Well, anyway, this one student at the school called him the N-word. Obviously disgusting. And Mr. Anderson, he responded by saying, hey, don't call me a N-word. And maybe it was in the heat of the moment. Maybe it was to strike a point. I don't know. I don't know why he said it and why he said it that way. But the fact of the matter was, the context was like, don't call me that. This is offensive. But he got fired for it. He lost his income. He lost his health insurance. I believe he actually did eventually go back and get that job back, but not at first. I mean, he had to fight for it. I think there might have been a court case. I don't know exactly the whole story on it, and that isn't the point again. He was definitely lost his income for a while, and he was up to lose his health insurance, and that's why he had to fight back extra hard. But what that shows is that wokeism really has nothing to do with common sense. The woke are triggered by everything, and it doesn't matter if what they're said about makes sense or not, whether it's actually racist or not. So in other words, or sexist or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's a word, it's a trigger. And so in other words, under wokeism, like the contents and the context and the situation and the circumstances don't matter. All that really matters is who you are, and if the people in charge, namely the government and the big tech, believe that you can carry the message they want carried. And there's clearly some people who can use words that others can't use. Watch a rapper or Chris Rock special. There's words that most people would be canceled for saying, but they can get away with it just because of who they are. And again, I don't think that that's right to use in general, or to use that word. Personally, I think it's a disgusting word. And I think all racism is disgusting. And maybe when some people use it, it is racist. When others use it, it's not. It doesn't matter. To me, we have to have an equal playing field. And like I said, in this case that I just cited, it was an African American who was canceled for using that word in a context of where he was responding, telling someone how offensive it was. So the context doesn't matter under this cancel culture, this wokeism environment. Another example that comes up all the time is in medical practitioners, especially alternative medical practitioners like naturopaths. They see it a lot, but all practitioners who don't agree with a common narrative. And censorship means that important medical information that could save lives, and in many cases should be saving lives, and certainly could help people make decisions about their own health, that information is regularly censored and hidden from the public. It's censored by the government in some cases. It's censored by big tech in many, many cases. And I'm not talking about information from some whack job who read something somewhere or made something up out of his head just because he doesn't trust the government. Even though that's what the cancel culture warriors out there want you to believe about any of this alternative information. I'm talking about information that's coming from top researchers, top scientists, top physicians, and more people in these fields who are being censored and silenced and can't get their messages out. You know, obviously we saw a lot of this during the recent global health situation. It became a common rallying cry behind a lot of people. But it's not just there. I mean, there's alternative cancer therapies that have been shut down for decades. I recently heard of a physician who's had 12 attempts on his life because he was saving lives in ways that Big Pharma isn't getting cut, and therefore Big Pharma doesn't like him getting that message out. And there's examples of that type of thing happening everywhere. If you have an opinion that doesn't agree with ours, it needs to be silenced. And we're seeing this new type of censorship, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to avoid, and this cancel culture. And then it involves people just being ostracized, shamed, or even punished for expressing their opinions online. And the first one being ostracized, you know what? I don't care. I mean, if you're an idiot and you want to ostracize, or somebody else is an idiot and you want to rip them apart, call them down, tell everybody how stupid their ideas are, I believe you should be able to do that. That's what free speech is. Let's use freedom of speech to fight against these idiots who are trying to discriminate or who are bringing forth stupid ideas or harmful ideas or whatever ideas. Shame them, that's fine too. But when we start talking about punishing them, when that punishment is coming from powers above, like I say, if the punishment comes from you not doing business with that business, perfect. I'm perfectly okay with that. Don't do businesses with you that you don't agree with what they're doing. That's the free market. That's free market at work. But when that censorship, that cancel culture is from the government, especially when it happens to be one side of the government really pushing their ideas just because that happens to be the one in power right now. What happens when it's the other government that's in power and there's ideas that they want to push that you don't agree with? I think suddenly all of a sudden your perspectives on censorship, if you believe in the censorship right now, they may change if it's you being silenced. Same with big tech. Big tech have a monopoly, and don't tell me it's free markets again because of corporatism. It's far from a free market. I'm not going to go into an economics discussion here, but we're far from a free market. And that cancel culture, it can be anything from unfriending someone on Facebook, who may have made an innocent comment. And I'm fine with that. I mean, if somebody made a comment, whether it's in context or out of comment, and you want to unfriend them, fine, go ahead. But that can range up to these massive campaigns to get businesses shut down just because somebody said something that was unpopular. And that's where it gets to be more of a problem. And especially if it's coming from a powerful authoritarian entity. And the problem is this trend has been gaining such momentum over the last few years, and it's really having a serious effect on our society. We can't fix our society's problems if we can't have free expression about them. And this behavior not only harms individuals, but it creates this chilling effect on anyone who wants to express their opinion without fear of some kind of reprisal. And it really turns us into this 1984-like dystopian nightmare, where if you say anything, you're in trouble, or where you must conform or you're going to face punishment. And as long as we live in a society where you must conform or face punishment, we're heading towards a dystopian hell. And yes, like I said, I agree that discrimination is a bad thing. Racism is a disgusting and terrible thing. Sexism is a disgusting and terrible thing. Hating someone because of their sexual orientation, all of that stuff is bad. There's no question about it. If you're hurting people because of their beliefs and this identity politics, that's not a good thing. And we don't want that in society. But we can't use authoritarians to try and stop it, because it becomes this slippery slope that encroaches where the slightest thing, stating a statistic that's true, a provable statistic, can be called racism, for example, just because it might talk about something that happens within a given race or within a given sexual orientation or within a given sex or any other group or identity or anything else. If you disagree with it for whatever reason, whether that reason makes sense or whether it doesn't, it's now called hate speech. It's now called racism. It's now called sexism. When that could be farther from the truth. Maybe you just don't agree with a lifestyle choice. Another big example we've seen a lot of. You don't agree with a lifestyle choice because of your beliefs and your religious beliefs. You should be allowed to have those religious beliefs and say that you don't agree with a specific lifestyle. But if you do that, you're now considered homophobic, even though you may be the farthest thing from the truth. You may just have that opinion that you don't agree with that, but that doesn't necessarily make you homophobic, and it certainly doesn't make you a hate speech for saying that. But that's the way the world's gone, where because of Wokism, if you even talk about those issues, if you even talk about the negative side effects of something, whatever that might be, the drag queen story hour, if you talk about the negative effects of that, suddenly you're transphobic and you're talking hate speech and you should be shut down. All of these things mean we can't talk about the issues and the problems that are going on in society, and we can never become together. And it's going to marshal us into this draconian style, so we can no longer really think for ourselves. And so what happens, when the powers that be wants you to think something different from what you want to believe? Well, if you believe that cancel culture is okay and you believe that wokeism okay, that means that you believe that your opinion should be steered by whatever the narrative of the day is. And it seems like no matter what we do these days, we can't win. If we speak up, then we're going to be canceled. And if we stay silent, our work becomes boring and bland and uninspired, read the 1984 book. Their lives were not exciting by any means. It was bland and gray and drab. So and like I said, it's all about being able to discuss these issues, because that's how we get the best solutions. And while a lot of the woke believe that by censoring out the ideas that they believe are bad, it's going to marshal us into some, utopia, some nirvana and utopia type of environment. It's not, because not one person always has the best ideas, and ideas have to be debated, they have to be expressed, they have to be thought out. And in some, we're never going to come together, but just censoring one idea, we're still not going to come together. It's just going to drive those bad ideas and the really bad apples and the bad examples of those ideas underground, because they're never going to be swayed. So we can't do that. So if you own a business, it's something that you really have to be aware of, and you have to figure out how to navigate that dilemma. And the way you do that is by owning your business assets instead of renting them. It means embracing new technologies and new tools and processes. It could mean being an early adopter for Web3 technology and doing things a little bit differently so that you're protecting your ability to express your own opinion. And building a bulletproof business goes way beyond just wokeness and cancel culture. That's just a personal fight of mine. But I mean, everything from a platform going out of business to a platform being acquired. There's a million things that can cause your business to be canceled from reasons that happen outside of you. So it goes way beyond cancel culture. But you do have to still make yourself bulletproof for those things as well. And a lot of the things that you're doing to protect your business will protect you from both. And it means doing things a little bit differently. If you do want to chat, if you ever want to chat about your business, you can set up a free meeting with me at palmtreeresearch.com/booking. We can just kind of chat about it. But you want to look into ways that you can own your own business, own your own assets, get off of the cancel-prone big technology, which is stealing your data, using your data for their own purposes, and trying to steer a narrative that you may or may not agree with, because even if it's a narrative that you agree with, you don't want to be steered. You want to leave that ability in yourself to change your opinion on it if you get better data. And we can't ever do that if we're shut down and if we're silenced. So that's all the time that we have today for Renegade News Live. I will join us next Friday and every Friday at 12 p.m. EST for the next episode. And remember, if you type 5 in the comments, I'll send you a reminder of that upcoming live stream, and you'll also get our free cheat sheets. I'm Glenn Kowalski, and if you love freedom of speech, and if you want to make a bigger impact while you're pursuing your life's mission, you need to be a renegade. So I will see you next time.